Welcome to Shadow Empire Academy. Today you will learn how your organization works, which tasks they are responsible for, and how to distribute your budget effectively. Probably if you are a new player and you see the screen first time, it might be confusing. Which organization should you choose and what they are responsible for? So what are organizations? Let's imagine them as some institutions in your empire that you can assign a council and budget. So on the national level, if you go to the reports and overviews, we have bureaucratic points. And bureaucratic points are an abstraction to money and effort, also procedures to make your organizations more effective. Initially, you have only one organization, Supreme Command Council. You can also start game with 4 or 8 organizations, but the basic one is Supreme Command. Currently, 100% of our national budget, so 58 bureaucratic points, is allocated to this one organization. The more organizations you will add, the more the budget will be distributed across your organizations, so they will be less effective until you increase the amount of bureaucratic points. So take this into account. If you are adding too many organizations compared to the bureaucratic points that you have, you might be less effective than having only few organizations but better financed. Each organization have some tasks. In this case, we can see that there are 2 tasks: political power and general stratagems. The first one is responsible for producing the political points that you can use to play stratagem cards. And the second one tries to fulfill duties of non-existing organizations. It's more visible if we go to the organizations, and here we can check how exactly the bureaucratic points are distributed, because each organization have their own priorities. In this case, I split 50% of bureaucratic points allocated to this organization to political power and 50% to general stratagems. And each task is converting bureaucratic points into something else. In this case, we are converting bureaucratic points to the political power points. They are not the same that political power visible here. Those are points. And in Shadow Empire, if you see points, usually a square root of points gives you something. So in this case, if we go to overview, you can see that we have produced 14 political points, so those points. But if you hover here, you can see that 36 political power points provided 6 political points. So let's go back to our organizations. We know that the first one is responsible for political power at the end, and leader relation, and if his skill can increase the efficiency of those bureaucratic points allocated. And general stratagems task is converting bureaucratic points into different categories of points. So spy card points, major diplomatic card points. So in general, some card points that will allow us to produce stratagems before we will create the organizations that specialize. So we can have some HR card points before we have interior council. The same, we can have some initial diplomacy before we have foreign council. That's why early game general stratagems is your only source of stratagems. If we go now to overview stratagem generation, you can see that the game converts the diplomatic card points into a chance to generate a stratagem. So any card points that are produced using your organization's tasks are increasing a chance to generate stratagems. In this case, the amount of points you are producing is compared to the cost in card points. In this case, 8 from 10 is 80% chance to generate a spy card. Also, the weight matters, so the game first select which card we can generate and then compare the allocated card points to the cost. And then we have a percentage. So initially, our first organization is very helpful because we can create some card points that are converted into a chance to generate a stratagems. That's why I could generate some cards visible here in the second round. But of course, having only Supreme Command Council is not enough, because more specialized councils are more effective. Also, the leaders can specialize and improve the efficiency of the tasks. So we have discussed Supreme Command Council. Any new organization costs political power, and the more you add, the more expensive they are. You can see the cost in the table from game manual. So it's 4 political power, 8, and it's growing. But each round which you delay the decision is decreasing the cost by 3%. And you can see in the last column what is the minimal cost if you would wait quite long with the decision to create that organization. So initially you need to balance the amount of bureaucratic points to the amount of organizations. And which one should be first depends mainly on your initial situation and your own strategy. I will load now other game where I have all organizations and we will discuss all of them one by one. Okay, I have loaded a game from my playthrough as a Faro Federation, and here, as you can see, I could generate 1445 bureaucratic points, and I have all possible organizations, and my budget is distributed, as you can see, and the important factor is the percentage allocated after the name of the organization, because those are the further distribution inside the organization. So when you call your secretary, you can assign a budget to any of those organizations, and those percentages sum up to 100%. Any organization can distribute this amount according to their priorities. So Staff Council has 23% of bureaucratic points, and if we go to the Staff Council overview, you can see that for Discovery we allocate 15%. So 15% from 23 allocated to the whole organization give us 3.5%. And if we go to the overview and scroll down, you can see that Staff Council have here 3.5. So this is the number after the priorities percentage applied. All of the tasks percentages sum up to 23%. So we don't see here 15%, but it's visible only in the organization overview. Okay, so we know how the bureaucratic points are distributed on national level, and then how the priorities affect the bureaucratic points that finally are assigned to the tasks. And let's review all tasks. And we will start with Economic Council overview. The first task is responsible to discover technologies that are related to economy. So if we go to Manage Technologies, all that have this blue label can be discovered by Economic Council. Next task is Research. So if you have already something discovered, then using this task, we can select a specific technology. So if we call our council and select the research task, we can select all already discovered tasks, and one of them can be researched. In this case, I would like to focus on industrial robotization. So keep this target. If you don't research anything, the points allocated to this task will be distributed to the discovery task. If you would like to learn more how the technology and discovery and research process works, you can watch my video about technology. Next task is prospecting. The prospecting is responsible for discovering resource deposits that initially are hidden. So if we go to our overview, prospecting overview, you can read here that some of the zones contain some metal, water, or radioactive deposits, and such deposits can be discovered faster if you allocate some bureaucratic points to the prospecting task. So in this case, here you can see there is rare metals deposit discovered by Economic Council, and here there is metal deposit. So if your prospecting report gives you information that there are some zones where you still can discover these deposits, it's worth to keep the prospecting task more than 0. But if we know that there are 0 zones where we think we can still discover deposits, then there is no sense to waste our bureaucratic points on the prospecting task. Okay, so we know that this is needed to discover deposits, and economic policies is producing the economic card points, which later are converted into some stratagems. But which stratagems can be produced by Economic Council? You can check this if you go to the help, and here there is stratagem encyclopedia. And if we find Economic Council, you can see all cards that can be produced by Economic Council. So this task can give you some cards that will speed up things. For example, you can speed up the artifacts finding by playing the archaeology effort card. Or you can speed up the private assets construction by giving more money to private economy. Or you can renew already depleted metal mine. So if the amount of metal in this mine will reach zero, so there will be no more metal possible for extraction, you can play this card to get a new amount of metal deposit, but with a cost of ease of mining. And there are other bonuses. So all of those cards will affect your economy, especially this one is interesting to give you free industrial points. But some of the cards are related to the profiles. In this case, this is a card that I can receive if I have commerce higher than 50. And I will do a separate video about profiles. So let's quickly check the cards. They are visible usually in the zone section. So this is archaeology effort. So we can speed up archaeology, private investment, peripheral mining, improvised industrial points, and prospecting push. So we can discover resources instantly if they are available in the zone. So in general, Economic Council is quite useful council, which also let you to have some buildings like heavy industry, power plant, university, so all assets that can improve and speed up your economy. Now let's go to the Staff Council. Staff Council initially might be some mysterious one and it's not clear why we need it, but in reality it might be useful. The first task is similar to other science-based councils, so we discover, but not technologies, but we discover formation types. So if we go to the overview, formation types overview, initially you have only few formation types and the rest you can see here are discovered by the Staff Council. But initially, if you discover, they have status discovered, so you cannot use them. And then the second task should be used. So if we go to our Staff Council, we can call, and same as Economic Council had research, here we have order of battle development target. So we can select which discovered formation type can be operationalized. And after we operationalize some formation type, then we will be able to raise a new formations with OHQ that have this formation type. For example, a mechanized machine gun infantry brigade or light armor brigade. So Staff Council can discover formation types, operationalize using the second task, and then you can raise new formation with different order of battle type. You can watch my video about formations if you would like to learn more. The next task is occupation and governance. This one might be helpful if you conquer new zones and you would like to speed up some occupation processes. We can generate some occupation stratagems. If we go to overview, stratagem generation, and if we scroll down to occupation and governance stratagems, here you can see what we could generate this round. So a card to suppress unrest, which will be helpful to reduce unrest in some zones. Forced relocation, which is helpful to speed up free folks migration to your zones by force. Or some cards that are related only to autocracy, so to pillage or raise your zones, which are never used, but you can do this. Also, expel population might be useful to reduce unrest, but you will lose some population. Let's check the cards also in the zones. So expel population. So you are sending army and they will expel unloyal subjects. Or suppress unrest, also sending army to decrease unrest, raise and pillage, quite drastic ones, but only for autocracy. Force relocation, we can relocate free folks, but some casualties can happen. So you can see that the occupation and governance can use army to decrease unrest or to move free folks faster. Or sometimes if you need money, you can grab the private economy food and credits to your public budget. The next one is very important. This task gives you postures that can you assign to your armies. So if we once again go to overview stratagems and let's scroll to postures, you can see some orders that you can give to your brigades to behave in a specific way. They can increase their defense, or maybe they can try to hold the line even if they will have high losses. or we can simply entrench and increase our entrenchment. So all of those postures are visible later in the HQ tab of our stratagems, and here we can select stratagem and then we target some of the units, or simply we can find any unit, go to the headquarter, and from headquarter level we can click the stratagem, and in this way we can select some stratagems, and our brigade is already selected, the one that I clicked here. So we have discuss postures task. It's very important. If you are preparing for a war with major regime, it's good to have few postures because sometimes you need to dynamically change postures depending on the situation. And the last one is customize formation types. This one also, if you are a new player, can be a mysterious one. So here we do not generate any card points, but we generate order of battle custom points, which are converted to the customized points visible in our Empire dashboard. And then the customized points can be used by your staff council. So if we call our staff council, the last order for him is the customize. And here we can use the customization points to modify the formation types that we already operationalized. And we can modify the formations with operational headquarter or also independent formations, which is much cheaper. So for example, I would like to have machine gun battalion and add there some buggies. I can do this. And then I will have a new formation type. I can rename it. And those points are used mainly for that. And it was last task from the staff council. So quite many tasks, not really needed early game, but good to have it later. The next one is Military Research Council. This is mainly science-based council. So we have discovery, same as for Economic Council, and we discover technologies that have this military label, and they are giving us mainly weapon types or technologies that can be helpful to unlock different formation types. For example, to unlock jetpack infantry, I need to have jetpack technology, which is available here, and it can be discovered by military council. Also, automatic rifles, padded envirosuit, combat armor, guided RPGs, all those military technologies are very helpful for your military units, and any upgrade will can inherit such technologies. I recommend my video about model design. There you can learn more how to use discovered technologies to upgrade your units into better versions of your models. Model Design Council. Speaking of which, this council also have only two tasks, similar to the science, but we are not discovering technologies, but we are discovering models. So in the screen that I was showing you, all gray technologies can be discovered, and then using the second task, we can design models. And here you can see how many models I already designed from that model type. So this is very useful organization. And if you discover a model, then you can call your council and let him or her to design a model. By designing a model, we mean we select a type and then a blueprint, and we can later raise a new formation or upgrade existing ones using the technologies that are discovered by our scientists. So model design is very, very useful, and I recommend my video about model design. Foreign Affairs Council. If you have some nearby peaceful minor regimes or even major regime, you can do some diplomacy. Minor diplomacy task is generating minor diplomatic card points, which are converted in a chance to receive minor diplomatic cards. Same here, major diplomacy produce major diplomatic card points. Please notice that also the same type of card points is produced by the Supreme Command Council in the general task. So we have two sources of such points, but this one is more specialized. If we go to the overview stratagem generation, you can see how many different major diplomacy options we have. But initially you will have much less. The more you have, the more you can generate, but also the weight will be changing, and then you have different chance to the possibility to be able to generate them. And please take into account that the diplomatic cards have some hierarchy. So to generate a gift 1000, you need to first have gift 400. And in general, there is some hierarchy. So to generate, for example, spy team, you need to have first send spy. To decrease sales tax, you need to have first increase sales tax, which is logical. Okay, so this is useful if, for example, you have nearby farmers. They, after some time, can even join your empire. Interior Council, this is also very important. Initially, Supreme Command can only generate human resources card points, but this council can also generate tax card points and tariff card points. The tax is more important here, so you can increase taxes and have more money. So for example, in the treasury cash flow overview, you can see that I have income tax 30%, so I had to use the stratagems from the Nation tab to increase sales tax or to increase income tax. Those are cards generated by Interior Council. So let's go back. Human resources, very important task to produce cards that can give you new leaders. We have different versions of such cards. Also in the Nation tab, the most basic one is Recruit Junior. So there will be an unexperienced leader, but capability can be from 1 to 5, but the maximum capability depends on how far in the game you are, so the current round matters, and how many zones you have. So initially it's very hard to get juniors that have capability 5. Also, I can recruit special ops leader, so a good candidate for Security Council, but this card you receive if you have high autocracy. Recruit senior, this guy will be experienced, he will be older, but will have many skills. What else we can have? Recruit military, it's also a junior, but they have usually a good war statistic and some military skill, but they are not experienced. A similar card is a recruit mercenary. It's quite costly and gives you capability to leader, but it can have some experience, so the skills will be much higher. There is also recruit civilian, and if we go to manage profiles, in meritocracy there is a recruit talent card, which gives you also higher capability leader. It's guaranteed capability free. Okay, so we know how to recruit our leaders. Also, this task can give us cards that are responsible for managing leaders. So a Medal of Merit to award somebody, also some gifts, cards to retire leaders and remove from the leader pool, some state gifts, but this one is if you have high commerce. So any cards to manage leaders, a relationship, hire new leaders or retire leaders. So very important task. And interior policies, if you don't know what the task is doing, simply you can go to the overviews and stratagem generation, and we can see interior policies in our case produce cards that can give some money to the population to increase the happiness of our population, or support militia, have more recruits, or even get some fate points. Let's check those cards. They are in the zone section. You can see give 2000 to population, will increase happiness of population and workers, or here we can get instantly some recruits based on the percentage of the population. So those are cards related to the situation in the zones. And now Secret Service Council, so our spy master. There are 3 tasks. First one is also sometimes a bit confusing because the name does not correspond to the name in the overview. So if we go here, it's covert ops stratagems, but in the organizations we have active field operations. But you can see we are producing covert card points, and this way we can recognize that here we also are using covert card points, so this is the same task. Those cards are simply cards that we play on some foreign regime to build a rebellion on their land, and the strength of the rebellion will depend on which card are you playing. And support faction, you can support some foreign regime factions, because if you go to the regimes, any of them have some factions. One of them is the major one, so they have majority of votes, and you can support some of them. In this case, this faction received 56% of the support, and in the next elections, simply they will have more votes. So you can affect other regime's elections. The next one is the most useful, so spying operations. You are producing simply spy card points, same as the Supreme Command Council can, and those cards are simply visible here, and you can send spies, 1 of them, 3 of them, or 6 of them, but the more at once you want to send, the more difficult it is. And the last one is internal security, and we need to find them here, internal security stratagems. So this task is generating cards that are needed to assassinate some leader if you are autocratic, or send a gift to your own faction, so not to the foreign faction but to your own, and during the next elections you can simply give money to some faction to support them, or investigate leader to get money from the corrupted leaders that theft some money, also useful. So you can see them in the leaders tab. Here you give to faction, and in general they have always a brown background, so you can recognize them by this brown background. Also shadow spy is useful if you would like to increase for 1 round the next roll for your Secret Service Council by 40, but only to covert ops skill. And here we see investigate leader and assassinate leader. Now let's go to Applied Science Council. This is needed if you open the technologies that have this applied science label. Initially, if you start on technology level 3, you only have opened the basic technologies, so there is no sense to create this council until you have access to this or this technologies group. So worth to remember. But this council is very useful later. You can discover some technologies and you can research them, but they are mainly giving you some bonuses, like better efficiency of solar panels, better efficiency of your weapon for your infantry, or for your tanks, or your vehicles will consume less fuel, or have better armor if you design new models. So those technologies gives you bonuses. They are visible in the model design technologies. For example, my light tanks, you can see that they have some technologies from Applied Science Council. Better armor, conventional guns, cluster bombs. Side skills, I think it's from Military Council, but conventional gun and vehicle are from Applied Science. Please be careful because those technologies are usually linear technologies, so you never reach 100%. You cannot fully develop them, and the more progress you have, the more cost 1% of the progress is. You can see I have 63%, and 1% cost me nearly 150 bureaucratic points, so it's very expensive. It's better to switch into other technology and pay for that amount. I could quickly increase to around 30% some other bonus. I already explained this in the video about technologies. Air Force Research Council. I would say this is more situational, so if on your planet you have proper conditions for your aircraft, you can check the conditions if you go to Help Planetary Statistics Overview. The gravity and atmospheric density is important. Helicopters can fly if the density is higher than gravity. In this case, you can treat this as 0.27 bar, because 100% density is 1 bar of air pressure. And here you can have aircraft engine advice is rocket engine. So it's good to check this screen before you will design your aircraft. And if you can design, then this council can help to discover and research technologies that have this air label. So usually those are different type of engines that can unlock different type of flying vehicles. For example, a light helicopter requires helicopter engine, or light topter requires topter wings. You can also design new and heavier versions of aircraft. By the way, in parentheses here, this means how many engines this aircraft has. So 2 engine aircraft, 4 engine, 6 engine aircraft. Okay, we have discussed all tasks in all councils, and the question is, which one should be first in your empire? Usually the safe choice is to go with Economic Council or Military Research Council. Can also work. Foreign affair, if you see peaceful neighborhood, then sometimes this can be also a case. But interior is also a safe choice. So economic, interior, military and model. Those four should be added faster, and staff council can be later. Applied science can be later. Air Force can be probably near the end of your list. Secret Service, depending on the playstyle and the situation, but you need to know that sending spies is a very good way to discover nearby regions. And now a bonus content for those who survived to this moment of the video. You should know that if in your stratagems you have more cards in one pile, so for example, I have 4 Send Spy team cards and 5 Send Spy, it will increase the cost of generation of such cards a lot. So if you go to overview stratagem generation, here you can see that Send Spy is costing me 150 spy card points, and this number depends on how many cards already you have. So not only the weight change if you have more cards, but also the cost of one card. So the wise decision is to use the scrap mode and remove some of the cards. For example, keep only 2, from those only 1, here only 1. Even if I have 1, I am now decreasing a lot cost of those cards, and next round they will be probably generated, or in next 2 rounds. I don't need to be afraid that I am decreasing the number of cards, and also I can craft a custom stratagem quite often. So now let's play next round and we'll see how the cost for the Send Spy change from 150 to some lower number. I am in next round, and you can see that I received Send Spy and Send Spy ring cards. And now, if we go to our overview, you can see that the cost of Send Spy card is 30 spy card points, and also the weight changed a lot. And one information regarding budget, is good to know that any task that is crossing the 100 bureaucratic points allocated will be less effective. So you can see economic policies, 219 bureaucratic points. So if we go there to Economic Council, scroll down, you can see that task economic policies receive 219 bureaucratic points. This is more than the optimal efficiency limit of 100 bureaucratic points. Bureaucratic points has been reduced by -61 to 158. So it's good to know that there is decreased efficiency of investment if you cross the 100 bureaucratic points. Sometimes this is needed if you really want to push and speed up, but the outcomes will be not linear. So the investments over 100 will not scale up the same as below 100. So if you are counting each bureaucratic point, then it's better to keep the allocation of bureaucratic points per task below 100. But sometimes crossing it by a few points, it's not a problem. If you really want to push with some military research or political power, then don't be afraid to cross 100. And last hint, the cost of playing cards in political power depends on the relation with your leader. Sometimes, if the relation is 50 or below, the cost can increase significantly. I think that's all. I hope you have learned a lot, especially if you are a new player. Thank you for watching and see you later.